Hello, welcome to episode 4 of Book Chat, a video series from the CH Booth Library. I'm Anne, a librarian at CH Booth, and I'm here with my coworkers, Fran, Lucy, and Margaret. Before we talk about the books, we want to share some exciting news. The library is opening again beginning on September 2nd. Check our website for all the details. And September is also Library Card Sign-Up Month. You can apply for a card online to be able to borrow one of these great books that we're going to talk about or access any of the digital content that we have. So up first is going to be Margaret.
Good morning. I'm Margaret. I work in the circulation department, and this morning I want to talk about a book I recently read, Things I Never Told You. The author is Kelly Rimmer. I'm sorry, Truths I Never Told You. The author is Kelly Rimmer. Kelly Rimmer is a fairly young author with 3 best-selling novels in the past, I'd say 5 years. This book just came out this spring of 2020, and she has been compared to Jodi Picoult and Christine Hanna. The Jodi Picoult comparison, I'd say, is because the topics are very relevant, and I would say what I liked about it is that I could not read her individual bias into what she was speaking about. But that being said, she does deal with, this book deals with 2 sisters that are maturing in the late 50s, early 60s, and making choices for their lives, and the discrimination they face, the lack of choice that one faces as far as contraception and birth control goes. That leads the story to illegal abortion and what that situation was at that time, and then as well as postpartum depression. So one sister is really searching for a family planning for her own sanity. It is one of the stories that jumps through time, as those children that one sister have aged. They have some very sketchy memories of their upbringing. One of the sisters ends up actually committing suicide because of how distraught she becomes in facing her choices. So it is one of those books that travels through time, and you realize that the family of women has gone through 3 generations of severe postpartum depression and mental illness. At the same time, the grandfather in the present day is dealing with dementia, and each situation that the people are in, or each diagnosis, if you will, is really described in a very relevant way, in a way that you can relate to if you've had any friend or family member with any of these mental issues or mental health issues. I could really relate to that. There is also just a lot of relevant topics. One sister who tries to take over and help raise the children that are left motherless, then faces a lot of discrimination in the 60s because she cannot get a job. No one wants to hire a woman with that many young children. She's in the academic world, and they don't want her to be a professor if she has that many family responsibilities. So it's really a look into something that, just happened to our mothers or our older sisters even. So I would highly recommend it. I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm ready to read the other 2 books by Kelly Rimmer. She has tackled other topics. Addiction is a book. She has written a book a lot about drug addiction, and that's the one I'd like to read next, The Things We Cannot Say. And another title by her is When I Let You Go. So this is an author and a book that I would highly recommend. Truths I Never Told You, Kelly Rimmer.
Thanks, Margaret. The story that I'm going to talk about is called A Fire Story by Brian Fees. This is the title here. You may not know that the C.H. Booth Library has a graphic novel collection. It's in the adult fiction section, but it's a separate section there. It encompasses everything from comic book heroes like Black Panther to stories about historical events and visual retellings of classic novels. I particularly enjoy graphic memoirs, and A Fire Story is especially beautiful and heartbreaking. The author tells of his experiences in the Northern California wildfires that took place in October of 2017. His home and neighborhood were literally burned to the ground, and the book combines his own deeply personal story with the experiences of other members of his community. It's interesting to see how Fees uses his art to help him process the tragedy and bring understanding of this ongoing problem to others. And it's especially relevant now still. It seems every summer these wildfires tear through Northern California. So for people new to graphic novels, the panels are easy to follow with clean lines and large areas of bright colors. Like I said, it's very beautiful. This is an example of a spread that I really like. It's not confusing at all. Its parts are dark, of course, but it's easy to read. So I would recommend this title to anyone curious about trying a graphic novel, or people who are interested in memoirs of any kind or environmental issues.
Okay, so I'm Fran. I work on the circulation desk at the library, and the book I read was The Darwin Affair. It actually came out last year. It's by Tim Mason. I have never read anything by him before. I don't know if he's actually written anything. Anyway, I liked it because it's set in Britain. It's in the late 1800s. And it's following Charles Darwin's publication of On the Origin of Species, which was a very contentious book at the time. It's a mystery thriller, and the royal family become involved in the controversy, and we follow Detective Charles Field as he attempts to prevent a particularly sinister criminal from harming them, the royal family, that is. Famous names pop up in the book, including Karl Marx, Queen Victoria, Prince Albert, and of course Charles Darwin himself. The story is an exciting race against time with pulls on lots of emotions and lots of unexpected twists. I think it would be a good book club book. There are 30 copies of it in Bibliomation. It's not new, so it's, there's going to be a lot around. You can also get it on Hoopla, and it's an audiobook or an ebook. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was, a hoot, and I definitely recommend it.
Thanks, Fran.
Oh, that sounds good for book groups. I will keep that in mind. My name is Lucy. I do adult programs at the library. And the book I'm going to recommend is an audiobook. I would recommend it only as an audiobook because of the narrator, who is Neil Gaiman. The book is Neverwhere, written by Neil Gaiman, originally as a television series. I didn't know that. But there were so many things he could not put into the television series that he later wrote this book, so he could go more deeply into everything. I would say that if you asked me if I liked fantasy, I would say no. But I love this book, mostly because of his voice, and also it's just a very clever book. It's an urban fantasy. It's sort of inspired by The Wizard of Oz and even the Bible. It's about a hero's journey. And the hero in this case is an unassuming young man named Richard Mayhew, who in the prologue is in Scotland getting drunk at his leaving party at the pub. He's going to move to London and start a career. But as he's sitting out on the curb, an old woman comes and tells him to beware of doors. She tells his fortune because he gave her an umbrella. So he goes to London. A couple of years later, he's working at a job in a cubicle, and he's going out with Jessica, who's an extremely demanding person, but he just does whatever she says. And they're about to go out to dinner with her boss, Mr. Stockton. And Richard sees an injured girl on the sidewalk. And rather than going to the fabulous dinner, he helps her And Jessica gets so angry that she breaks off their engagement. So he takes this girl back to his apartment to recover. And it turns out her name is Door, D-O-O-R. And she is actually from London Below. There are two worlds, London Above and London Below. And two really horrible, sinister, monstrous men, Mr. Krupp and Mr. Vandermeer, are trying to kill her. So her talent is she can open a door, any door, with her mind, you know, into anywhere or a real door. So she finds the Marquis de Carabas, if you'll remember that name from Puss in Boots, who is going to help her. So they separate. Richard supposedly goes back to his real life, but he finds that it's not there anymore. Nobody can see him or recognize him, and all his friends don't know who he is. Jessica doesn't remember him. People are looking at his apartment to rent it while he's in there taking a bath, but no one can see him. So he's stuck. He has to go and find London Below because he can't live in London Above anymore, and he's miserable. Anyway, it's a long journey, and it's really interesting. There's a lot about the tube stops. They come into play a lot. I just find it very satisfying. It's creepy. You know, there's a lot of creepiness, but there's also a lot of goodness. And Neil Gaiman's voice is so gentle. He's a wonderful narrator. It's very kind, very gentle, very thoughtful. So I would definitely recommend Neverwhere, but to listen to. Thank you.
Great.
That
Thank
sounds
you.
great.
Thank you, everybody. We got a wide variety of titles that we talked about. They're all available at the library or on some of our digital platforms, and they will be listed in the link that's posted with the video. You can make an appointment for curbside delivery if you want to pick up one of the books, or you can make an appointment to come on inside starting on September the 2nd. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next month.